While attempts to find proof of the following accounts are in vain, those who believe know it in their heart to be true. 2,000 years ago, a humble man, a simple carpenter's son, extended to the people of the world a new faith, a new life, a new order. And those seeking a life of peace for himself and those he loved, he was deemed dangerous, and for that, he was crucified. While executed as a criminal, he was treated as a saint. And one man, Joseph of Arimathea, wrapped his body in flaxen cloth. 3 days later, after his death, the man arose, revived despite wounds deemed fatal, and thanked Joseph for treating his body with care. Joseph wept at the sight of a miracle and asked the man, "Will I ever see you again?" And the resurrected man simply stated, "Everything is circular if it rotates. I must go east." And with that, he vanished into the light. The man began his never-ending journey to the east, traveling further and further, setting things right that once went wrong. He lived, he laughed, he loved, and he learned. And all those whose hearts he touched pleaded with him, "Will we ever see you again? We wish to see you again someday." But that day never came, as his journey continued. But the call east drew him further and further, until one day he crossed the ocean and set foot in the New World. There he lived the rest of his days in peace, living one with the natives that called this beautiful land home. Now that was a dramatic reading of the apocryphal biblical text, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7, Steel Ball Run, as written by the mysterious and enigmatic Hirohiko Araki. I think it might be one of the Gnostic Gospels, maybe even a Dead Sea Scroll, possibly a lost book of Mormon, considering Steel Ball Run depicts a world where Jesus traveled to America and just started hanging out with the Native Americans. That's right, this video is about to get Irish Catholic on your ass, because we're talking Jesus Christ.
Jesus, we thought you died in Iraq.
I have the power of resurrection. Or have you forgotten?
Who doesn't like Jesus? He's a level 20 desert wizard, he's got a sick crew by his side, minus that one guy, and he sets things right that once went wrong, just like Scott Bakula. But unlike Scott Bakula, he isn't responsible for the third worst Star Trek show to ever air on television, so it's pretty alright in my book. Let me lay down this beat and see if you pick it up. This ain't gonna be a Sunday school lesson. I'm not gonna force you to paw through the Bible cover to cover, front to back, page by page, and we sure as hell aren't gonna be sanctimonious here. You come to PDX Toy Collective for some tasteless jokes, some non sequiturs, and some really strange action figures. And we've got the latter in spades today, because I have found Jesus Christ. That's right, I found an actual, factual, true blue vintage Jesus action figure, and we're going to take a look at it today. From the mysterious year AD 1992 comes the Rainforest's Bible Greats Jesus Christ, a 3 3/4 inch scale action figure meant to pair with your G.I. Joes, your Star Wars, your Chips, your Love Boat figures, your Glamour Gals, whatever you got, he's ready for it. And if you're tired of going to church on Sundays, then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring that bell for notifications, because PDX Toy Collective is the only toy YouTuber who's willing to create a fake religion just for tax-exempt status.
I bested you, Venture. Do you yield?
Go to hell, Ron. Elron.
Jesus H. Christ here was made by biblical tchotchke company Rainforest, a company that specialized in Christian action figures in the 80s and 90s. Now, these toys weren't like the Bible Man action figures where you got a little Willie Ames to mess around with.
Zapped! Starring Scott Baio, Willie Ames, Albert Einstein, Scatman Crothers.
No. These were figures based off of the characters in both the Old and New Testament. They did a few different series of toys back in the day, the first of which was an 8-inch Mego-alike style toy line, which featured the usual suspects, you know, Noah, Samson, Joseph in his Technicolor dream coat. Then a couple years later, they did a 3 3/4 inch toy line, which is kind of weird and just the menagerie of characters they put together. There's John the Baptist, there's David and Goliath, there's a pretty sweet Daniel and the Lions gift set that includes 2 lions, which is actually really cool. And then, of course, Jesus here. All of these figures also included a cassette tape, which I've never listened to because 99% of the times when you find these action figures, they're still sealed on card, and God knows what it says on there, but I can only assume it's a Teddy Ruxpin Sunday School special.
Jesus is coming back. Did he forget something?
Nope! Jesus is coming back for Armageddon!
Unfortunately, most of these toys fall into the how do you do, fellow kids trappings, which is to say, they're out of touch, out of date, and pretty lame in a lot of respects. The 8-inch Mego-like figures came out in the mid to late 80s, which was about a full decade after Mego's heyday in the 70s, and then the 3 3/4-inch figures came out in 1992, which by 92, the only major player in the 3 3/4-inch scene was G.I. Joe, and they were really falling off. Most other toy companies had already moved to chunky, squatty, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle-style toys. Now, Jesus is built a little different than your average action figure of the time. He's not a 5POA toy like a Star Wars figure, or an O-ring style toy like a G.I. Joe or Micronaut. Instead, he's kind of in between. He's a 7-point of articulation action figure, very similar to the Gabriel Legend of the Lone Ranger toys and the Kenner Butch and Sundance toys. Which is to say he has movement at the neckline, the shoulders, the hips, and the knees. And unlike other action figures that predate him where the outfit is sculpted on, like Perseus from Mattel's Clash of the Titans, his is cloth. He may just have a plain white tunic on, but he decided to jazz it up a little bit by taking a page from a style guide published a little further east, as he has a bright electric blue obi on. That's right, he's not just any otaku, he's the original old taku. Okay, I joke about him looking like he's ready for Anime Northwest, but it's recognizably Jesus, the Jesus that we know in the Western canon. But when you get close up to that portrait sculpt, it's a little, could use a little bit of work, a little bit of TLC, and that paint could just a little touch up here and there. I see the vision here, okay? It's not that far off. I like it. I've given a pass to worse head sculpts, okay? So this is fine. Now, despite being a 3 3/4-inch scale action figure, he is admittedly a little short for a stormtrooper. While Kenner Star Wars toys don't tower over him necessarily, it is a noticeable difference, kind of like how you notice Robert Downey Jr. is a lot shorter than Chris Evans in the Avengers movies. But it works to his advantage, as Jesus can work with a ton of different playsets, accessories, and vehicles. Obviously, he can fit inside like an X-Wing or the A-Team van or whatever, but he also just looks good on a horse. Thankfully, I have a huge love for cowboy and western bullshit, so I have this awesome Imperial Legends of the West horse, which has a lot of interesting miscellaneous 3 3/4-inch western figures in there. I guess that means this horse is automatically faithful and true, and Davy Crockett's in the middle of the Book of Revelations, which is not a good time. You should probably get out of there. And that kind of is where the true power of Jesus comes into play. No, not his ability to turn water into wine. He's able to fit in with just about any 3 3/4-inch toy line. He looks good with most of the other action figures, he can play in the playsets, and he can fit inside the vehicles. It's pretty easy to imagine Jesus playing with your Kenner Star Wars figures. After all, C-3PO and R2-D2 were tasked with finding a mystic out in the middle of the desert. It's just they found a different one. And now Jesus is leading the charge against the Sith and the Empire, which, depending on how you read either Star Wars or the New Testament, that's not entirely inaccurate. Now, he does have one major flaw as an action figure, and that's the fact that he doesn't have a lot of action to him. You might have noticed he's sculpted with 2 open hands. Unfortunately, he can't actually hold anything. These hands are simultaneously too big, too narrow, and too shallow to actually hold any accessory. I've tried a bunch and just nothing will fit in there. I guess it is technically lore accurate, he is the turn the other cheek guy, but I also watched Last Temptation of Christ and I saw Willem Dafoe running around with an axe, okay? I know he can do it.
I believed in love. Now I believe in this. Who's with me?
That said, there is still a fun factor to him. He's actually made in earnest. He's not like those novelty shop figures where it's just like, oh ho ho, look, it's Jesus hanging out with Mark Twain. And it's like, no, this is Jesus. This is the Savior, the Messiah, the Cecil B. DeMille's, the King of Kings.
Drink up, Judah Ben-Hur.
You truly are King of Kings.
Excellent.
While I do respect it, it does make it even more ridiculous when he's hanging out with G.I. Joe. Like, just imagine this, right? Destro and Dr. Mindbender created the ultimate Cobra Emperor by combining the DNA of history's great leaders, including Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, and Attila the Hun. But they forgot one man. Searching the globe in a bizarre adventure, Sergeant Slaughter himself found a piece of amber, and within that amber contained a mosquito who bit Jesus Christ. Using super science, G.I. Joe has cloned the Son of God, and now he's ready to fight back. With Jesus Christ The adventure is yours, kid. Now look, there are tons of esoteric, obscure, and lost artifacts associated with Jesus. In fact, I'd consider this toy among them. But, there's other notable stuff. The Indiana Jones stuff. There's the classic Holy Grail, subject of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, as well as
Excalibur.
the Spear of Longinus, which is also in Indiana Jones, come to think about it. And of course, the fragments of the True Cross, which every other church claims they have. If you want to get really weird with it, the actual corpse of Jesus is the MacGuffin for Steel Ball Run. But my favorite Jesus artifact is the Chronovisor.
What the hell?
What the fuck is the Chronovisor? Well, in 1972, there was an article published in La Domenica del Corriere, which is the Sunday Courier that I definitely mispronounced. It's an Italian newspaper, and in that article was an interview with Father Pellegrino, unrelated to the soda water, Ernette. Now, Ernette maxed out multiple skill trees in his lifetime. Not only was he a Benedictine priest, but he was also a musicologist and a physicist. And according to him, in 1952, he and his friend Friar Agostino Gemelli began experimenting with a tape recorder to capture the voices of the deceased. After some trial and error, he began to record these voices and took his invention to Pope Pius XII. After bearing witness to this miraculous invention, Pope Pius assembled a crack team of scientists. Not to continue the development of an afterlife telephone, that's boring and dumb, no. He assembled a team to build a time machine. Of these mysterious clandestine scientists, only 3 have been named. Ernette himself, his buddy Gemelli, and... Werner von Braun. It only took a couple sentences to get there. So I guess between making V2s for the Ratsies and then taking us to the moon in the 60s, von Braun took some PTO to work on a time machine. Anyway, between vino and pasta breaks and beautiful scenic Rome, this team of scientists created the Chronovisor. Outside of having an awesome name, this device takes radio waves and electrical magnetic impulses in the atmosphere and allows one to view the past. This technobabble has an uncanny resemblance to an interview with Stan Lee that I saw once, where he was talking about his development of the Hulk, where he said, "I don't know what a gamma ray is, and I don't know what it would do to me if it hit me, but I know it sounds good, and that's why I wrote it in a comic." Anyway, according to Ernette, he used this device to witness the speeches of Roman statesman Cicero. He's keeping it local, but then he decided to go for broke. With the Pope by his side, like a good Catholic padre, he decided to use the Chronovisor to not only witness the Last Supper, but also the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Not long after that, the Pope said, "Okay, that's enough Chronovisor for you," and locked it away. Legend has it that the Chronovisor is locked away deep within the Vatican archives, so deep that it's beyond the public reach in the Vatican vaults, a mysterious place full of esoteric and occult artifacts deemed too dangerous for the general population. The Chronovisor undoubtedly sits on a dusty shelf with London After Midnight, the missing episodes of the Daleks Master Plan, and that Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander some son of a bitch snaked from me on eBay. I'm still sore about that. Okay, so the Chronovisor's probably completely, totally fake. I'll give it a fair shake. We're fair and balanced on this channel. It's probably like 99% not true with a 1% margin for error, but it's a fun story. It's an entertaining story. That's what matters. And while this episode has been full of both sacrilege and idolatry, which is a double whammy I wouldn't have expected, I do think there is a lot of charm to this toy. It might land a little better if you're secular, or maybe it'll land even better if you're non-secular. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. But there is something fun inherently about this. Obviously, there's the ridiculousness of it, but there is a likability to it as well. I joked at the beginning that everybody likes Jesus, but it is true. There is a reason why Buddy Christ is a thing. Everybody does like that guy. And honestly, I don't think it matters what side of the aisle you fall on, whether you're Catholic, Protestant, snake handler, pagan. I think Jesus would want us all to have a happy Easter and...